Decisions that we make in our life oftentimes have unintended consequences that we can't see at the time that we're being faced with this decision. For example, let's say that you've been working at a company for 10 years. You've climbed the corporate ladder. The company has believed in you, trained you. They've invested in you. They've been loyal to you. Company's full of great people that have become your friends. And then a new company comes along with an enticing job offer. They promise you more money, a better schedule, better future. The grass is greener, they say. You drop the company and the people that have been loyal to you for a decade and accept this new job opportunity. 1 year into it, you realize that you're in a political shark tank. People at this new company will fuck you over in a second to climb the ladder. Management cares nothing about you. You're just a number to them. A situation arises that causes you to get fired and blackballed from whichever industry that you're in. You now have to start over in a new industry. You go from making $100,000 a year to $40,000 a year. Your lifestyle has drastically changed. All because you made a wrong decision. 2 years ago, the New Orleans Pelicans offered DeMarcus Cousins a contract that was worth about $40 million over 2 years. He was coming off a torn Achilles in January of 2018. Wouldn't be able to play for another full year at minimum. Cousins was in a predicament. He was coming off his second NBA contract. He would have been a free agent that summer for the first time in his career. For the first time, he was eligible to receive a max contract. It was his first opportunity to make big money in the NBA. But his future was uncertain due to his Achilles injury. That type of injury is devastating to an NBA player. It's the worst injury that you can get. Guys tear their Achilles, they're rarely ever the same player that they were before. So DeMarcus Cousins had a decision to make. Do I take this $40 million guaranteed money, or do I test the waters in free agency for the potential to earn much, much more? The Pelicans were building something special with DeMarcus Cousins and Anthony Davis. They were just beginning to gel when he went down with his injury. Cousins felt that New Orleans was lowballing him with their offer, so he declined the contract. Summer of 2018, free agency begins in the NBA. Guys all over the league are fielding calls from multiple teams with big money offers. DeMarcus Cousins' phone isn't ringing. The silence is deafening. The message is clear. The NBA no longer believes that DeMarcus Cousins is worth a max contract. So he picks up the phone, calls the Golden State Warriors, begs them to give him an opportunity to prove his worth to the league. Signs on the mid-level exception, around $5 million a year. $15 million less than he was offered in New Orleans. Disaster strikes again. Tears his quad before the playoffs. Ends up returning for the NBA Finals, a shell of his former self. Numbers down across the board. Net rating, -11. Doesn't have the same burst, the same speed. He's not the force that he once was. Last summer, he decides to join his old friend Anthony Davis and signs with the Lakers for $3.5 million. The least amount of money that he's made since his second year in the league back in 2011. Once again, disaster strikes. Tears his ACL before the season. Hasn't played 1 minute with the Lakers. And his return is doubtful even for the playoffs. Now the Lakers are preparing to move on from DeMarcus Cousins, clearing a roster spot to potentially sign Markieff Morris. Morris gives them a better option at power forward, although struggles defensively. He'll struggle defending guys like Paul George, Kawhi Leonard. The Lakers, though, are deep at the center position. Both Dwight Howard and JaVale McGee have been solid all year. So they don't really have a need for an injured DeMarcus Cousins. So here we sit, 2 years after DeMarcus Cousins declined New Orleans' offer, made his decision, turned down $40 million in guaranteed money, and it ended up costing him about $32 million. And the likelihood of him ever being offered a max contract in the NBA has evaporated into thin air. The question is, where does DeMarcus Cousins go from here? More than likely, he'll never be the same player that he was back in 2017. Most teams won't have significant cap space this offseason, which shouldn't affect him too much because there isn't a team in the league right now that's going to offer him big money anyways. He'll be 30 years old in August. I doubt he will ever get that max contract that he wanted back in 2018. If he decides to continue to play basketball, he'll probably be doing so on a veteran's minimum contract worth about $2 million. It's a sad story. DeMarcus Cousins was toxic in his younger days in Sacramento. Fights with his head coach, racked up technical fouls like strippers rack up $1 bills. But New Orleans was willing to give him a chance to rehabilitate his image, a chance at propelling his career. And to DeMarcus Cousins' credit, he took that opportunity and ran with it. He was a perfect teammate in New Orleans. Players loved him. Alvin Gentry loved him. The organization loved him. The city of New Orleans loved him. I was at Game 4 in that first round playoff series against Portland that was played in New Orleans. During a break in that game, DeMarcus Cousins was shown on the screen in the arena, and fans chanted "Boogie" for 3 or 4 straight minutes. He was loved in the city of New Orleans, and DeMarcus Cousins made the decision to turn his back on the one team in the NBA that believed in him, that was willing to give him a chance. It eventually worked out for the Pelicans. I mean, they drafted Zion Williamson, got a great young core of players from the Lakers in the trade with Anthony Davis, poised for success for years to come. But for DeMarcus Cousins, the decision that he made had far greater consequences. Not only did it cost him a lot of money, but he hasn't been loved by a fan base like he was in New Orleans since he left. Hell, he's barely touched the floor. If he had stayed in New Orleans, it's unlikely that he would have rushed back from that Achilles injury. He wouldn't have rushed back from that quad injury to play in the NBA Finals because the Pelicans wouldn't have been in it. But who knows what would have happened? All we know is one bad decision changed DeMarcus Cousins' life. All right, let's move on. I sit here on this Saturday morning, we're in late February 2020, and I feel like I'm feeling deja vu because once again, Kyrie Irving is sidelined for the rest of the season due to an injury. This is Kyrie's 9th season in the NBA. 6 of those 9 years, he's missed at least 15 games, 20% of the season. More importantly, 4 of the last 5 years, Kyrie has missed significant time due to injury. Since that NBA Finals run with the Cavs in 2015, Kyrie Irving has been known more for his injury status and his antics than his play on the court. So as I sit here this morning, I ask myself, could this be a blessing in disguise for the Brooklyn Nets? They knew Kevin Durant wasn't touching the floor this year. But the goal this season was to get their young core of players acclimated to playing with Kyrie running the point. And it's been an abject failure. Kyrie Irving is one of the most unique star players in the history of the NBA because he isn't a superstar level talent like Kevin Durant. He can't lead a team like LeBron James. But he also can't fall back and be led. For as talented as he is on the court, because of his personality, he doesn't fit well everywhere he goes. His time in Cleveland, there were problems between Kyrie and LeBron James. Kyrie thought that he should be the leader of the team. forced his way to Boston. Here you go, Kyrie. You got what you wanted. Go lead the Celtics, a team that was in the Eastern Conference Finals the year before when you were on the sidelines due to, you guessed it, injury. The next year, a young Celtics team that was oozing chemistry the year before was discombobulated all season with Kyrie Irving as their leader. The result? They were bounced in the semifinals in the Eastern Conference. Instead of getting better with Kyrie, they got worse. It's becoming a trend now that teams that acquire Kyrie Irving were better off before they got him. The Celtics were 12-3 without Kyrie. They were 37-30 with him. Brooklyn brought back most of their young core that made that surprising run in the playoffs last season. Spencer Dinwiddie, Karis LeVert, Joe Harris, Jarrett Allen. The only guy missing is D'Angelo Russell. The Nets have had Kyrie's services for only 20 of the 54 games they played this year. They're 8-12 with Kyrie on the floor. 17-17 when he's out. Kyrie Irving has become somewhat of a cancer wherever he goes. Don't get me wrong. On the court, he's great. He averaged career highs this season in points, rebounds, PER. The problem, though, it doesn't translate to wins. Brooklyn knew they weren't going to have Kevin Durant this year, but they were hoping that Kyrie Irving could lead this young team to the playoffs and learn Kenny Atkinson's system. Between KD and Kyrie, the Nets have paid almost $70 million for 20 games and an 8-12 record in those games. I keep hearing people say that Brooklyn is looking towards next season and the two after that where KD and Kyrie are under contract. But even then, is this guaranteed to work? Obviously, Kevin Durant's going to be the leader of the team. Will Kyrie have an issue with that? Maybe. Maybe not. Is Kevin Durant capable of being the leader? KD's had a Hall of Fame career. There's no doubt about it. But he's never been in a position to where he's the face and the leader of a franchise. In Oklahoma City, it was Russell Westbrook's team. Westbrook was the alpha male on the court and in that locker room. That's one of the reasons that KD left. When he was in Golden State, he was the best player on that team, but he wasn't the leader. That was Steph Curry's team, Draymond Green's team. For this year, I think Brooklyn will actually be better off without Kyrie Irving. They're not going to make any noise in the playoffs, but I think the chemistry and the team will play better now that Kyrie's gone. All right, let's switch gears to the NFL. The biggest story in the NFL this week has been the new collective bargaining agreement. The owners approved the new CBA on Thursday. It's now up to the players and the players' union to vote on it. This is kind of unusual. The current CBA doesn't expire until after the 2020 season. NFL owners seem to be in a real rush to get a new CBA approved before the league year begins on March 18th. Why is that? Well, it's because they want to begin negotiating new television and streaming deals, which is where the bulk of the league's money is made. The big additions to the new CBA that the owners have proposed is the addition of a regular season game, which would move the regular season from a 16-game to a 17-game schedule. They eliminate one preseason game, moving it from 4 to 3. Also, the NFL wants to expand the playoff field, moving it from 6 teams in each conference to 7 teams, which would eliminate the first round bye for the number 2 seed in each conference. There's no chance in hell the players approve this new collective bargaining agreement. It's not going to happen. For starters, the owners want to cap the players' earnings on that 17th regular season game at $250,000. That's robbery. Imagine your boss coming up to you at work. Let's say you make $30 an hour. You work Monday to Friday, 8 to 5. Your boss wants you to start working on Saturdays every week, but is only willing to pay you $10 an hour instead of $30 an hour. Would you accept that? Of course not. I love football. The NFL is my favorite league, but I don't like the addition of a 17th game, and I don't like expanding the playoff field. Those first round buys in the playoffs are a huge deal. Taking it away from the number 2 seed could have major implications. Look at the Super Bowl the past couple of years. Both teams playing had a first round bye. Both conference championship games this year, 3 of the 4 teams had a bye in the first round. If it's not broke, don't fix it. The NFL right now has the best regular season of any sport. It's better than college football, better than the NBA, way better than Major League Baseball. Same with the playoffs. Ratings are up. The league has never been more popular. Don't try and oversaturate it. More isn't always better. In most cases, it's actually detrimental. Professional wrestling was huge when I was growing up in the 1990s. Every Monday night, millions of people watched wrestling. The wrestlers themselves were huge stars. They were on late night talk shows. They were on ESPN. They were on the covers of magazines. Then it started to become oversaturated. They started airing on 2 nights a week instead of 1 night a week. Then it was 3 nights a week. Stars began to become stale. Wrestling declined in popularity, and it never recovered. Now, will adding a 17th game to the NFL schedule cause immediate oversaturation? Probably not. Probably not immediately. But I say it all the time on this podcast. One of the things that makes the NFL so special is its scarcity. When the season ends, we miss it. September to December, that's all we get of NFL football. 17 Sundays a year. You add a game to the regular season, the players are going to understandably want an additional bye week. Now the regular season is going until mid-January. Playoffs going into mid-February. Super Bowl could get pushed back to the first week of March. The offseason completely disappears for the players. It's just not worth it, in my opinion. All right, that's all for today, guys. Hit that like and subscribe button on YouTube. Make sure to click that notification bell to receive all notifications from the channel. Leave me a 5-star rating on iTunes. I appreciate those of you who have already done so. I'll be back Tuesday to recap the weekend. Leave me a comment in the section below, or you can follow me on Twitter at KC_BTL84. Have a good weekend. I will see you guys on Tuesday.